Welcome back. I'm so glad you're here for this session of the Journey of Restoration CPR Style, the Foundations class. Every time we meet, we take another step forward, building stronger, healthier foundations, not just for ourselves, but for the way we connect to the people around us. Today, we're going to focus on connection with others. Relationships shape so much of who we are and what we do in our lives. They bring strength, growth, and even healing. Here's what we'll explore together. Understanding the power of connection. Evaluate the influence of your social circle. Recognize the importance of setting healthy boundaries in relationships. Embrace forgiveness as a key to personal freedom. Relationships aren't always easy, but they're worth investing in. As we go through today's session, I invite you to reflect on connections in your life where they bring strength, where they need boundaries, and where healing might be needed. Let's get started.
Let's be honest, life can be tough. We face stress, pressure, unexpected challenges, but here's the good news. You don't have to go through it alone. I want to talk to you about the power of connection. Scientists once conducted a fascinating experiment with monkeys. They placed a monkey in a cage and exposed it to intense stress, blaring noises, sudden flashes of light, temperature shifts, and even bursts of water. The monkey's stress levels skyrocketed. It was overwhelmed, on edge, and desperate for relief. Then they made one simple change. They didn't turn off the noise. They didn't stop the chaos. They didn't remove the stress. They just simply put another monkey in the cage. And just like that, the first monkey's stress levels were cut in half. Did you catch that? The struggle didn't change, but the presence of a companion made the difference. That's the power of connection. It's not about finding people who can fix your problems, and it's not about you trying to fix theirs. It's about having someone who will simply be with you in the middle of it all. Because we were never meant to do life alone. So who are you walking with? People, a lot of times they'll come up and ask me, do you think I will be a success? And I always tell them, I like to look at what I consider the three most important factors in your life. Who you spend time with, what you invest your time in, and where you pour your resources. The people around you shape your direction, whether you realize it or not. So here's the big question. Are you surrounded by people who lift you, challenge you, and help you grow? Or are you surrounded by people who drain you, distract you, and pull you away from what you're called to be? Because here's the truth. Birds of a feather flock together. This can be a hard reality to think about. Your friend group or even your family members who you're around could be hindering you. Something critical to consider is, in relationships, who's shaping your brain? Are all of your relationships in the right zone of trust? Not everyone deserves equal access to your time, energy, and emotions. We love everyone, but we don't have to spend equal time with them and give them the same level of influence in our lives. The more unhealthy the relationship, the more they should fall out of your inner trust zones. Imagine this. A 7-year-old comes up to you and asks for the keys to your car. Would you hand them over? Of course not. Not because you don't love them, but because they're not ready for the level of responsibility. The same is true for your relationships. Some people simply aren't ready for the responsibility of being in your inner trust zone. To be in your closest trust zone, someone must demonstrate two things. Respect. Do they honor your values, your boundaries, and your well-being? And responsibility. Are they taking ownership of their own actions and growth? If someone doesn't show both, They should have less access to your time and your emotions. And so here's the key, and that's that you get to decide who moves in and out of your trust zones. This isn't about rejecting people. It's about guarding your heart, because who you allow closest to you will shape your future. Now, before we get too focused on evaluating everyone else, let's turn the mirror to ourselves. Whether you look at people in a positive or a negative light, it's important to see the wonder in them. When you look at people, do you see their wonder or their weaknesses? Jesus didn't just see people for who they were. He saw them for who they would become. He saw potential in the broken. He saw value in the overlooked. So what about you? Do you add value to people calling out their potential, or do you constantly critique, assume, and judge? Because here's the reality. What you focus on, you magnify. If you focus only on people's flaws, that's all you'll see. But if you train yourself to see the wonders, the glimpses of God's purposes in them, you'll begin to see people the way Jesus does. That changes everything. A lot of frustration comes in relationships because we try to control what isn't ours to control. But relationships involve 3 key players, each having critical parts. There's your part. You're responsible for your actions, your choices, and your boundaries. There's God's part. Only God can heal, convict, and transform people. That's not your job. And then there's the other person's part. Each person is responsible for their own choices and actions. You can't do their part for them. So when we try to do God's part or the other person's part, we create dysfunction. If I spend my time trying to fix someone else, I'm stepping into God's role instead of doing my own. So what's your part? Your part is to set healthy boundaries. Your part is to choose who gets access to your time and energy, to choose to see the wonders in others instead of being critical. And a huge part of relationships that we need to address is forgiveness. Is there anyone that you need to forgive? Maybe as we've talked, a name has come to mind. Someone who hurt you, someone who betrayed your trust, someone who changed your life, not for the better. Forgiveness doesn't mean what they did was okay. It doesn't mean that there aren't consequences, but it does mean you're choosing to release them from the power they have over your heart. Because here's the reality. Holding on to unforgiveness will only lead to brain damage. Forgiveness isn't about setting them free. It's about setting you free. And remember, you can move people in and out of your trust zones, but you can't move forward while dragging unforgiveness behind you. So in this lesson, there are some big takeaways. Let's land this plane. You are more likely to succeed when you have a buddy. Community is a must. You must evaluate the health of your community. Is it what you need to be during this season of your life? Who you surround yourself with will shape your brain, shaping your future. Your trust zones matter. Not everyone deserves equal access. And I want to encourage you to see the wonder in people instead of focusing on their flaws. You do your part, let God do his part, and let others be responsible for others. Forgive and release. It's the only way to walk in freedom. And so finally, you are worth being known. You're worth being in relationships that reflect Jesus. And I can't wait to continue this journey with you.
On my way home from Oklahoma after this life-changing encounter with God, I knew that I needed to find community, no matter how small, for support and to go on this journey with me. As the saying goes, birds of a feather flock together, and I knew that if I wasn't intentional about this, I would fall right back into the old familiar patterns and my way of life. So I invited 2 friends to meet with me on a weekly basis to go through the Journey of Restoration course. I was already in relationship with these women, so there was a certain level of established trust, and they agreed because they cared about me and they knew I was in crisis. Fortunately, they were believers too. So we would meet and we walked through the course together, processing honestly, praying together through it. And for this was actually the first time in my life that I had had friends who I prayed with. And we'd text each other encouragement and we'd push each other towards Jesus. And I really started realizing how important this is. We've all got wonderful friends that we have a great time with, but we need people who are just as passionate about Jesus as we are, who are going to pick us up when we fall, and they're going to lift our eyes when we get shaky in our faith. We're not meant to go it alone. And let me just say this. Sometimes we're sort of nervous about being too known because maybe that'll come with accountability, or maybe we don't want to share our business. But if you don't have a community, you are missing out. We are created by a relational God, and community is one of the most beautiful blessings God gives us. It is so much more fun to follow Jesus with friends. We're meant to truly know each other and to be fully known by others, to laugh and to cry together. We need people who know our strengths and help us develop those strengths, but also know our weaknesses. We need people who know where we're likely to fall back into old patterns and can help prevent us from happening. This has been such an incredible source of encouragement for me, to have support system in those friendships and the privilege of seeing the body of Christ working together in a really, really fun way. It is just essential. We're meant to be in relationship with believers and non-believers. We're meant to be mentors and to have people who mentor us. This was something I was clearly lacking before, and it made all the difference. It just can't be you and God. There's something that happens when 2 or more are gathered in His name, calling out to God and praying together and laughing and doing life together with Jesus in the center. It doesn't happen apart from that. And so I would really encourage you, even if you just find one other person. And what I've watched happen is that when you step out in faith and you decide to trust God, He blesses that, and He begins to multiply. And 1 turns into 2, and 2 turns into 3, and 3 turns into 4, and so on. He does the heavy lifting as your community begins to grow. So I just want to encourage you, find a few safe people who want to grow and go deeper, because it will exponentially increase your success, and it's just so much fun.
Today, we're focusing on something that impacts our emotional, spiritual well-being every single day: trust zones. We'll explore the relationships in our lives and how we trust others with our hearts, time, and emotions. But before we begin, take a deep breath, settle in, and think about the people in your life. Who do you trust? Why? Who feels close and who feels distant? Now imagine your heart and emotions inside a square. Different levels of trust exist within this space. At the center are the people who have earned the deepest trust and those who handle your heart with care and respect. The questions will appear on your screen and can be found in your companion journal. Pause the video and journal your answers. Discuss your answers and restart the video, allowing enough time for journaling and discussion. I hope you had a good, rich, and maybe even challenging discussion during your open up time. One thing to remember, boundaries aren't about shutting people out. They're about creating healthy relationships where trust can grow. Protecting your heart allows you to love more deeply and fully. Take a moment to consider what steps you will take after today's session to build stronger, more supportive relationships. Thank you for being here, for showing up, and for investing in this conversation. Trust takes time to navigate, but you're doing the important work. Take care, and I hope you look forward to the next session.
For this week's walkout, we're going to focus on building deeper, more intentional connections with others. I encourage you to take a few minutes each day to reflect on the following simple questions. You'll answer them and track your thoughts through the week in your companion journal. So let's get started. By taking just a few moments to reflect, you'll begin to notice patterns in your relationships and how they're influencing your growth. The goal is to be intentional about your connections with others, making sure they are in alignment with God's purposes for your life. As you go through each week, keep thinking about how you're living out your relationships in a Christ-like way. Let this week be a chance to grow on purpose. So think about these questions. What am I spending my time doing today? Think about the activities you're engaging in. Are they helping you connect with others in a meaningful way? Or are they distractions, taking your focus elsewhere? Also, who am I spending the most time with today? Consider the people you are with today. Are they lifting you up? Are they helping you grow? Who are you investing in? And who's investing in you? And finally, who can I connect with today that will support my growth? Reflect on the people in your life who encourage you to be your best self. Is there someone you can reach out to for support or perhaps offer support to today?